Have you ever wondered why your neighbor who makes the same salary as you somehow has money for vacations, a nice emergency fund, and seems stress-free about money, while you're still living paycheck to paycheck? You've been told that building wealth is about earning more money, getting that next promotion, or finding the perfect investment. But here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. There are people making $50,000 a year who will retire as millionaires, and there are people making $150,000 who will work until they die. The difference isn't their paycheck, it's their system. The 1% don't manage money differently because they're rich. They got rich because they manage money differently. And today, I'm going to share the exact 25-50-15-10 system that scales whether you're making $35,000 or $350,000. This isn't theory. This is the proven formula that billionaires like Buffett, Bezos, and Munger have used to build generational wealth. If you've ever felt frustrated watching others your age build wealth while you're just surviving, comment "money system" below, and let's dive into what nobody talks about. Because most people think wealth is about earning more, but here's the real secret. 1. The foundation fortress, 65% that protects your future. Let me tell you something that might sting a little, but it's the truth. Most Americans are building their wealth on quicksand. They're one emergency away from financial collapse, one job loss away from losing everything they've worked for. You know what I'm talking about, right? That sinking feeling when your car breaks down and you're not sure how you'll pay for the repair without putting it on a credit card. Here's what's happening. We've been taught to focus on growing our money before we've secured our foundation. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on sand. And the wealthy? They do the complete opposite. They build an unshakable foundation first, then they build wealth on top of that foundation. There's an ancient story from Babylon about two builders. The first man was in a hurry to get rich. He built his house quickly on sandy ground because the land was cheap and he could start faster. The second man took longer. He dug deep, hit bedrock, and built his foundation on solid ground. When the storms came, and they always come, the first man lost everything. The second man's house stood strong, and he built wealth that lasted generations. Warren Buffett understood this principle when he created his first rule of investing. Don't lose money. Notice he didn't say, make money fast. He said, don't lose what you have. That's foundation thinking. And here's how the math works. If you lose 50% of your money, you need to make 100% just to get back to where you started. The wealthy never put themselves in that position. This is why the first 65% of your income needs to be your fortress. Not 50%, not 60%, but 65%. And here's how it breaks down. 50% goes to your absolute essentials. Your rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, transportation, and minimum debt payments. These are the things you cannot live without. But here's where most people mess up. They let this 50% creep up to 70% or 80% because they think they deserve a nicer apartment or they need a newer car. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, is worth billions. You know what kind of house he lived in for decades? A modest home he bought in 1964. He could afford any mansion in the world. But he understood something most people don't. Your home should shelter you, not bankrupt you. Munger kept his housing costs low so he could build real wealth. That's essential discipline. Now here's the part that separates the wealthy from everyone else. That additional 15% for stability. This isn't your fun money or your investment money. This is your foundation money. Emergency fund, insurance, and debt elimination beyond minimums. This 15% is what protects your future from becoming your financial nightmare. Jeff Bezos understood this even when Amazon was burning through cash in the early days. While other startup founders were living like rock stars and spending every penny on growth, Bezos maintained cash reserves. He knew that businesses fail not because they're unprofitable, but because they run out of cash. The same principle applies to your personal finances. You're running a business, the business of your life. The ancient Romans had a saying that translates to, money doesn't smell. What they meant was that wealth is wealth, regardless of how you build it. But once you have it, you must protect it at all costs. They understood that losing money was far more devastating than making money was beneficial. This is why your 65% foundation comes first, always. Here's what I want you to do right now. For the next 30 days, track every single expense, not to judge yourself, but to see where your money actually goes versus where you think it goes. I call this the essential audit. Most people discover they're spending $200 to $500 a month on things they don't even remember buying. That money? It should be protecting your foundation. You know what the difference is between someone who builds lasting wealth and someone who stays stuck? The wealthy person protects their downside first. They sleep peacefully at night because they know that no matter what happens tomorrow, they'll be okay. That peace of mind? That's what allows them to take the calculated risks that build real wealth. There's a story about a wise old farmer who planted his crops in rows. When asked why he spent so much time making perfect rows instead of just scattering seeds everywhere, he said, "Young man, the harvest begins with the foundation. If my foundation is crooked, my entire harvest will be crooked." Your 65% foundation is those perfect rows. Everything else you build will depend on getting this right. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is what most financial advice completely misses. 2. The wealth engine, 25% that creates generational riches. Now here's where most people completely miss the boat, and it's costing them millions over their lifetime. They think saving money is the same as building wealth. Let me be crystal clear. It's not. Saving money is like collecting water in a bucket. Building wealth is like digging a well that flows forever. I see this everywhere. Good, hardworking Americans putting money in savings accounts, earning 0.5% interest, while inflation eats away 3 to 4% of their purchasing power every year. They're literally getting poorer by trying to be financially responsible. It's heartbreaking because they think they're doing the right thing, but they're using a 1950s strategy in a 2020s economy. There's an ancient Chinese story about a farmer who wanted to grow bamboo. He planted the seeds and watered them every day for an entire year. Nothing happened. Second year, still nothing. Third year, fourth year, still no bamboo. His neighbors mocked him, called him foolish for wasting his time. But in the fifth year, something incredible happened. The bamboo didn't just grow, it shot up 90 feet in just 6 weeks. You see, for 4 years, that bamboo was building an invisible root system so massive and so strong that when it was ready, nothing could stop its growth. That's exactly what your 25% wealth engine does. While others see nothing happening, you're building the root system that will eventually create generational wealth. Ray Dalio, who built one of the world's largest hedge funds, has a principle that changed my entire perspective on money. He says, make your money work harder than you do. Think about that for a moment. You're trading your life energy, your time, your skills, your effort for money. But once you have that money, are you making it work as hard as you work to earn it? Here's the mathematical truth that will either excite you or terrify you. Someone who invests $500 a month starting at age 25 will have more money at retirement than someone who invests $1,500 a month starting at age 45. Same total contribution years, but the early starter ends up with nearly 3 times more wealth. Why? Because their money had more time to compound. That's the power of your 25% wealth engine. Let me show you how the ultra-wealthy think about this differently. Elon Musk could have cashed out after PayPal sold to eBay. He was worth hundreds of millions. Instead, he took almost every penny and reinvested it into Tesla and SpaceX. People thought he was crazy. Why risk it all, they asked. But Musk understood something most people don't. The biggest risk is not taking risks when you're young enough to recover. Bill Gates did the same thing. When Microsoft went public, instead of buying yachts and mansions, He used his wealth to build a diversified investment portfolio. Today, most of his wealth doesn't even come from Microsoft anymore. It comes from the assets his Microsoft wealth bought. That's wealth engine thinking. Mark Cuban has this philosophy he calls sweat equity. He says only invest in what you understand and what you can influence. For some people, that's index funds. For others, it's real estate in their neighborhood. For others, it's building a business in an industry they know. The key is making your money work in areas where you have knowledge and control. Now, there's an ancient Jewish teaching called ma'aser. Traditionally, it means giving 1/10 of your income to charity. But I want you to think about it differently. What if you paid your future self first? What if that 25% was a sacred obligation to the person you'll become in 20 years? Because here's the truth. That person is counting on the decisions you make today. Your wealth engine has several vehicles, and you don't have to choose just one. Index funds give you broad market exposure with minimal effort. Real estate provides inflation protection and potential income. Skill development increases your earning power. Business building creates multiple income streams. The wealthy use all of these, but they start with one and master it before moving to the next. Here's what I call the growth accelerator formula, and this is critical. Automate your 25% before you even see it. Set up automatic transfers the day your paycheck hits your account. If you wait to invest what's left over at the end of the month, there will never be anything left over. Pay your future self first, then live on what remains. Dollar cost averaging is your secret weapon here. Instead of trying to time the market, you're buying consistently, whether the market is up or down. When prices are high, your $500 buys fewer shares. When prices are low, the same $500 buys more shares. Over time, this averaging effect smooths out volatility and builds wealth steadily. But here's the mindset shift that changes everything. There was a merchant who had 2 sons. To the first son, he gave a bag of gold and said, "Keep this safe." To the second son, he gave a bag of gold and said, "Make this grow." 20 years later, the first son returned the same bag of gold, proud that he hadn't lost any. The second son returned with a caravan of camels loaded with wealth. The father wept, not for the son who preserved the gold, but because that son had wasted 20 years of compound growth. Einstein reportedly called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. Most people pay compound interest on credit cards and loans. The wealthy earn compound interest on investments and assets. Which side of that equation do you want to be on? Your 25% wealth engine isn't about getting rich quickly. It's about getting rich for certain. It's about building something so powerful that it eventually works harder than you do. But there's one more piece to this puzzle that most people completely ignore. And if you get this wrong, everything else falls apart. 3. The happiness factor, 10% that keeps you human. Here's where most people completely sabotage themselves, and they don't even realize they're doing it. They go to one of 2 extremes that both lead to financial disaster. Either they sacrifice every ounce of joy in their life to build wealth, living like monks, denying themselves everything, becoming miserable and bitter. Or they spend every penny they make chasing temporary happiness, convincing themselves they deserve it after working so hard. Both paths lead to the same place: failure. The first type burns out and eventually rebels against their own system, often blowing their entire savings in a moment of weakness. The second type stays trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle forever, always wondering why they can't get ahead despite earning good money. I learned this lesson the hard way, watching my own father. He was so obsessed with saving money that he refused to spend a dime on anything that brought him joy. No dinners out, no hobbies, no small pleasures. He died with money in the bank and regret in his heart. On his deathbed, he told me, "Son, I saved so much for tomorrow that I forgot to live today." That conversation changed everything for me. The ancient Greeks had a concept called eudaimonia. It's often translated as happiness, but it's deeper than that. It means human flourishing. complete well-being. They understood that true wealth isn't just about having money, it's about living a life that feels rich in every sense of the word. A life where you have financial security and joy and meaning and connection. Richard Branson, who's built a business empire worth billions, puts it this way: business is an adventure. Life is an adventure. The point isn't just to survive the adventure, it's to enjoy it. Branson understood that if you hate the journey to wealth, you'll hate being wealthy too. The process shapes the outcome. This is why 10% of your income needs to be dedicated to joy, guilt-free. Not 5%, not 15%, but exactly 10%. This isn't frivolous spending. This is strategic happiness that keeps you mentally and emotionally healthy enough to stick with your wealth-building system for decades. Warren Buffett, despite being worth over $100 billion, still gets genuine pleasure from simple things. He lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He drives his own car. He reads for hours every day because he loves learning. His joy doesn't come from expensive toys or luxury experiences. It comes from living according to his values while still enjoying life's simple pleasures. Look at Oprah. She's conscious and deliberate about her spending on experiences and giving. She'll spend significant money on things that bring her joy or help others, but she's not buying things just to buy them. Every purchase aligns with her values and what truly makes her happy. That's the difference between conscious joy spending and mindless consumption. Tim Cook, Apple's CEO, lives in a relatively modest home and maintains a minimalist lifestyle, but he invests in experiences and causes that matter to him. He understands that money is a tool for creating the life you want, not a scoreboard for proving your worth to others. Here's where the wisdom of Aristotle becomes incredibly practical. He taught about the golden mean, the virtue that exists between two extremes. In money terms, the golden mean sits between the extreme of stinginess and the extreme of wasteful spending. Your 10% joy allocation is that golden mean. It's enough to keep you human, but not so much that it derails your future. Now let me show you how this all fits together, because the 25-50-15-10 system isn't just 4 separate buckets. It's an integrated ecosystem that works together to create sustainable wealth and happiness. Your 50% essentials keep you stable and secure in the present. Your 15% stability fund protects you from life's inevitable storms. Your 25% wealth engine builds your future freedom. And your 10% joy allocation keeps you motivated and mentally healthy enough to stick with the system for the decades it takes to build real wealth. Without that 10%, you become the person who saves for 30 years and then blows it all in a midlife crisis. Or you become so focused on the future that you miss the life happening right now. The wealthy understand that sustainable wealth building requires sustainable happiness. Here's your actionable system. I call it automated happiness. Set up a separate account just for your 10% joy money. This money has one rule. It must be spent on things that bring you genuine pleasure or align with your values. Maybe it's dinners with friends, maybe it's a hobby you love, maybe it's small experiences that create memories. The key is spending it guilt-free, because you've already taken care of your essentials, your stability, and your future. Some months you might not spend all 10%. That's fine. Let it accumulate for something bigger that brings you joy. But you must spend it on joy, not redirect it to investments. Your future self needs you to be happy today, not just financially secure tomorrow. There's an old story about a Buddhist monk who was walking through a village when he saw a man sitting by the road, looking miserable despite being surrounded by gold coins. The monk asked, "Why are you sad when you have so much wealth?" The man replied, "I've been saving these coins my entire life, but I've forgotten how to enjoy anything else." The monk smiled and said, "You've become poor in the pursuit of riches." The Buddha taught about the middle path, avoiding the extremes of indulgence and deprivation. Your 10% joy allocation is your middle path with money. It ensures you're building wealth without sacrificing your humanity in the process. This system works because it's balanced. You're not choosing between being wealthy or being happy. You're choosing to be both. You're not sacrificing your future for today or sacrificing today for your future. You're honoring both. But here's what I need you to understand. All of this, every percentage point, every strategy, every principle I've shared with you today will be completely meaningless if you miss this last critical detail. Look, here's the truth that changes everything. Wealth isn't about luck, inheritance, or even having a high income. It's about systematic money management that scales whether you're making $35,000 or $350,000 a year. The 25-50-15-10 system works because it's not based on how much you make, it's based on how you manage what you make. I've seen teachers become millionaires using this system. I've seen doctors stay broke without it. The difference isn't their paycheck, it's their system. Warren Buffett became the world's greatest investor not because he had the most money to start with, but because he had the best system and stuck with it for decades. Here's what I need you to do right now. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for next month. Don't wait until you make more money. Start the 25-50-15-10 system this week with whatever income you have. If you're making $3,000 a month, that's $1,500 for essentials, $450 for stability, $750 for wealth building, and $300 for joy. If you're making $8,000 a month, multiply accordingly. The percentages stay the same because the principles stay the same. I want to help you get this exactly right. Comment below with your monthly income, and I'll show you the precise dollar amounts for each bucket using this system. Don't be shy about the number. This community is here to support each other's financial growth. And if this system makes sense to you, let me know. Should I create a detailed video showing the specific investment accounts, apps, and tools the wealthy use for each of these 4 buckets? Because the system is just the beginning. Remember this. The 1% became the 1% by managing money like the 1% before they were the 1%. Your future wealth isn't determined by your current income. It's determined by the system you start today. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.